I've played through Pokemon Sword and Shield at least 10 times by this point, so you can imagine how happy I was to finally have another mainline Pokemon game to play through. But before I jump into Shining Pearl to see if Cheryl could become champion, I wanted to do my own run of the game to get a feel for the pacing, story, and characters in the Sinnoh region. So in a way, the first Can X become champion for BDSP is me. Can I, Vasko Games, become champion? This begs the question, what kind of Pokemon would I use? Well, you see, there are Pokemon that evolve and those that don't. And I have a very strong affinity for the ones that are perfect as they are. So for my first run of the remakes, I'll be going through the game only using Pokemon that don't or can't evolve. That's right, y'all, I'ma try fighting Cynthia with a male Combee and win, maybe. Now let's begin. Since the first set of non-evolving Pokemon aren't available until after the first gym, I picked Piplup as my starter. Almost lost the run to two schoolchildren with overpowered Abra, and slapped the Sinnoh version of Brock, who just happens to have an extra rock type on his team. I want one of those, but apparently Mr. Digging Man doesn't give me the digging kit. Since I had to backtrack to get to the next town, I figured I might as well catch all the early route Pokemon now, so that I won't have to triple backtrack when working on my Pokedex later. When I finally reached Floroma Town, I was surprised to find out that one of these new Pokemon was infected with a thing called Pokerus. Now, unlike real-life viruses, Pokerus is actually a good thing to have, because all it does is double the effort values gained from battle, so my team's stats will basically reach their maximum potential twice as fast. The other thing about Pokerus is that the odds of getting it are 1 in 21,000. In other words, I was more likely to have found 5 full odds shiny Pokemon than get Pokerus. And of course, this thing wasn't an Abra. Having received the good news, I beat up some Team Galactic runts, spent all my savings on jars of honey to slather on trees, and caught every single Pokemon near the Valley Windworks, including the first of my non-evolution teammates, Apache Risu that I nicknamed Blinks. From there, I made my way to Eterna City and grabbed the Explorer kit from some random old man, and look who it is! Broark vibing in the underground and telling me that if I want to leave, I have to press the Y button. Remember, Y! Except I kinda button mashed through that part and completely missed this dialogue line. So after I was done running around the underground, I entered into a state of panic. How do I leave? Did I get softlocked down here? The Explorer kit isn't working. There's no mention of how to get out from the guidebook. What's the point of this thing? I genuinely thought the developers forgot the code in a way to leave the underground. Turns out they just haven't read this book. After escaping my underground prison, I went to check on the honey trees, which takes 6 hours to maybe spawn in a Pokemon. None of them happened to have a Combee, so I returned to the underground and continued to dig around and catch all the Pokemon I could find for another 6 hours. While running around, I did manage to catch a Scyther that could temporarily replace Combee. But after comparing their base stats, I decided not to use Scyther since it would feel like a huge downgrade to then swap it out with a Combee. Instead, I caught a Lickitung named Bagels and used that as my temporary teammate. Since I had even more time to waste, I decided to decorate my secret base a little.
Hey Ugly, out of my way. Who you calling ugly? I'm calling you ugly. Ugly? We look the same, Jeffrey.
Ooh, what's going on over there? Are they gonna fight? Come now, children, don't look that way.
Are you calling me ugly? You're calling yourself ugly, Jeff.
Now, gentlemen, you do realize that both of you are statues?
Takes one to know one, am I right? You got him good, Jeffrey.
In an attempt to preserve my sanity, I decided to leave the underground and explore Eterna City a bit more, which was a great call since I found this little girl in the Name Raider's house that was willing to trade me her Chatot for a Buizel. This made me very happy since I didn't think I'd have access to this musical bird until much later in the game. Having 3 Pokemon on my team, I decided to try taking on the Eterna City gym. The puzzle here is to find all the gym trainers who are hiding in the makeshift forest and defeat them in battle. Since this gym specializes in grass types, I decided to let Cherub the Chatot lead the battle. Except since she was a traded Pokemon, Cherub refused to obey any of my orders. Great. That meant that I would have to rely on Bagels for this gym. Poor Bagels got a ton of seasoning all over them during these fights. From paralysis powders to leech seeds, bullet seeds, so many seeds that this plain basic Bagels ended up evolving into an everything Bagels. I know, I'm already breaking my own rules, but Bagels was already at his expiration date. Might as well let the poor thing evolve out of my team. But before that, it was time to fight Gardenia. She leads the battle with her Cherubi, and I tried to give Cherub another try. The snarky parrot ignored my first order, but ended up attacking on the second turn and one-shot the little cherry. Turtwig was out next, and while it was buffing itself up, Cherub decided to take a nap? This how Jaden feels about Ari. I used my once per battle healing item to try and save Cherub from fainting, but it just kept on sleeping while Gardenia stacked on a triple attack boost with Work Up. I was very close to losing hope for this battle, but to my surprise, after using a potion, Cherub woke up, attacked, and one-tapped the Turtwig. Good bird. The nice thing about its Chatter attack is that it's guaranteed to apply confusion to its target. Sadly, the Roserade refused to hit itself and knocked out the bird. Blinks was out next with an attempt to apply paralysis with Nuzzle, but it couldn't do much else. After knocking out Blinks, Gardenia quickly healed her Roserade. However, I still had Bagels on my team. He used Zen Headbutt to knock out Gardenia's last Pokemon and win me the second gym badge. Thank you, Bagels. Does anyone else find the clapping animation a bit uncanny? After beating up Team Galactic once more, exploring the old chateau, nope, and getting myself a bike, the honey trees were finally ready again. And as luck would have it, I finally found my next teammate, this male Combee, which I nicknamed Hex. While going towards the next town, some very suspicious dude gave me an odd keystone and told me to talk to spelunkers? Where have I heard that word before?
Time to go spelunking.
Anyways, I made my way to Hardhome, won a cleverness contest with Combee, took Blinks out for a walk, and then never returned it to its Pokeball. Oh, and also I, cooked some poffins for team bonding. Yum yum, burnt berries! Since the gym leader wasn't home and Spiritomb wasn't home, I decided to visit the Selacion ruins and catch some unknown to fill up my party. They were kinda slow at showing up, so I lured them out using Hex's sweet scent. See, Combee can be useful, unknown, and hits super effective on things, but could not hit my normal type chair, revealing its ghost type hidden power. So I nicknamed it Skeleton, backwards. There was some cafe cabin on the way to Veilstone where I beat up the maid with a Clefairy and stocked up on Moo Moo milk for the road. Only the best healing items for my team. When I arrived to Veilstone, I found that the old arcade had been replaced by a clothing shop, and since I knew I'd eventually be going to a very cold part of the Sinnoh region, I bought myself the winter style outfit and went on to face the third gym. There I met Maylene, the gym leader who doesn't know why she got to be gym leader. What? I think that was a very sus statement. Maylene knocked off that thought, but Blinks was still as shocked as I was. Her last Pokemon was going to be Trouble, and since Blinks couldn't touch it with its electric type moves, it used Charm to cut down Lucario's attack stat. I guess Maylene was prepared for this because she started using Screech on me and then switched to spamming Bulk Up to restore her stats. I used this opportunity to switch into Hex and let out a powerful gust. Hex, that's not powerful enough!
I have tiny wings, Mr. Games.
Lucario did eventually knock out her B, but little Hex had done so much damage that Maylene felt the need to use up her healing item. Out next was Backward Skeleton, who was able to deal a decent amount of damage with its hidden power, and was somehow bulky enough to survive a Metal Claw and finish off the fight. Having defeated Bootleg B, I headed down towards Pastoria City. On the way, I ran into a Girafarig. Since its design reminded me of Cat Dog, I nicknamed it Garchomp because it's half Giraffe and half Chain Chomp. Once I got to Pastoria, I beelined it towards the Great Marsh and spammed the binoculars in hopes of finding a Carnivine. Since time travel is illegal in this game, it meant that I either had to get really lucky or wait who knows how many more days to get one. And, just as with the Pokerus thing, I got lucky. A Carnivine was spotted right at the entrance of the Great Marsh. I could also use Hex's sweet scent to lure in Pokemon so I didn't have to worry about running out of steps till I found one. And when I did, I threw some mud on it so it couldn't flee, then spammed Safari Balls until it was caught. Welcome home, Venus. The 4th gym specialized in water types, but unlike all my previous ventures against Nessa, I had 2 Pokemon with a type advantage at my disposal. I guess Wake's Gyarados was so intimidated by Blinks that he ended up switching out. Wow! They gave the gym leaders some IQ in this game. Nothing Venus can't handle though. Now back to Blinks. Wake's last Pokemon was a fast Floatzel, but it proved to be a very easy target for my Zappy Squirrel. I'd expect nothing less of a world champion. After getting my 4th badge, I ended up chasing some Grunt, and finally got to enter Hardhome's gym, where I was presented with a 1st grade math test. Since Fantina speaks French, does that mean she's from Kalos or the yet-to-be-made Canada region? Anyways, Blinks uses Shockwave to blow up her balloon, paralyzes her Gengar, and zaps down his health quite a bit before getting knocked out by a Sludge Bomb. Garchomp is out next to finish off the fight with a Psyshock, but it couldn't do much against Miss Magius, so Cherub is out next. It uses Thief to snag her Expert Belt, and then uses Thief again to snag the 5th gym badge. Since these 6 gyms specializes in Steel steel types and I didn't really have a good counter to them, I took a small detour to the Iron Island where I tag teamed with Riley to get some practice and beat up some Team Galactic grunts. The only thing I learned from that experience is that I can knock out Steelix by spamming Bulldoze with Garchomp. Sadly, Riley's Island didn't teach me how to fight one of the best steel type Pokemon, Azumarill. Since the gym puzzle was a pain to do, I healed up my team with some Moo Milk and challenged Byron to a battle. Apparently, he's Rorark's father. Sorry Chief, your son ain't winning, and neither are you.
Boom, boom.
Did Team Galactic really blow up a lake?
Even Team Galactic has no use for Magikarp. Worthless, all of them.
Oh no.
Anyways, I saved Dawn and the professor, ran through the snow in my warm winter clothes, and did the best to avoid being softlocked for real in this gym. Candace starts the battle with a wishu, and I let Hex take the lead. He almost one-shots the Christmas tree, but gets buried in an avalanche. Candace wasted her full heal on Snover right before I one-shot it with Cherub's Chatter. I do the same to my favorite Ice-type Pokemon, Medicham, but couldn't get the Sneasel in time. I send out Blinks next, and Candace instantly went for a dig. I decided to be Big Brain and swapped out to Backward Skeleton, who levitates. And of course, that's the turn that Sneasel hits itself in confusion. And then Candace uses a second healing item? How come I only get one? Of course, that means Sneasel can bulk out a bunch of extra attacks and buries Nautilus with an avalanche. Garchomp is out next to finish off the Sneasel with a Rock Smash. Candace sets up an Aurora Veil with her Abomasnow, making itself even more bulky than before. I try to chip away at its health with Psybeams, but couldn't do much more with Garchomp, especially in a blizzard. Since Venus is weak to ice, Blinks was my last hope. I set up Paralysis with Nuzzle, and then used my newly learned move, Super Fang. This thing just halves the opponent's HP. I love it. What I don't love is getting hit with an Earthquake. It was all down to Venus. I hit a Used Bite and was happy to see the Abomasnow go down. Clap, clap, clap. Good job, Barry. You failed. So now I have to suit up and go storm the Team Galactic headquarters, but first, I had to go find a way to catch that Spiritomb. I'm naming you Introvert because I never want to talk to those underground NPCs ever again. After finally catching my Spiritomb, I stormed Galactic HQ, beat up Chibi-Cyrus, beat up Saturn, climbed Mount Cornet, tag teamed with Barry who fled right after the battle. Barry, where are you going? Beat up Chibi-Cyrus once again and then faced Dialga without healing. Whoops. Blinks paralyzed it with a Nuzzle, drank some Moo Milk for motivation, chopped its health down with Super Fang, and went down to a Flash Cannon. All I had left was Garchomp. So I tossed out an Ultra Ball and got lucky once more. And now I have a very important question to consider. Since Dialga doesn't evolve, should I put it on my team? Since I couldn't pick a Pokemon to boot out from my current team, and was also kinda salty that I can't time travel in this game, Mr. Time Travel Pokemon, I decided to leave Dialga in a box. Having rejected the legendary Pokemon, I strode into Sunnyshore where some dude named Flint asked me to beat up his friend in a Pokemon battle. His friend turned out to be the 8th gym leader. Maybe he's just depressed that Ambipom isn't actually an electric type, and Cynthia scolded him for that or something. Anyways, I knock out the Monkey, survive thanks to love, and then bulldoze Octillery? Half his team isn't even electric type! I send out Venus next and got Volkner to waste both of his Hyper Potions on the Octillery. Raichu tried attacking me with Surf but couldn't do much damage and went down to 2 Seed Bombs. Luxray actually posed a problem thanks to its Ice Fang attack, which flinched Venus, then knocked it out the next turn. I figured I'd fight electric with electric, so I send out Pachirisu and attacked with Dig. I guess all Volkner needed to cure his depression was someone else using an electric type Pokemon. After receiving Jasmine's blessing, I changed into the spring style clothing and made my way through Victory Road, spamming all of the repels I had collected because I don't want to overlevel, and I'm also not a big fan of the random encounters. Once I arrived at the Pokemon League, I checked out the shops, then went to read the little statues, only to be suddenly challenged by Barry. Did I mention once again that I forgot to heal? So most of my team was at half health, with no PV left on their best moves. Thankfully, I hadn't used Chair much, so I sent her out and spammed Chatter, which proved to be super effective on Heracross. It also confused Barry's Flozel, who failed to knock us out with an Ice Fang. The Staraptor punched itself in confusion, so down it goes. I expected Snorlax to be more troublesome thanks to its bulk, but since its bulk is only in the special side of things, Venus was out next to finish it off with a Seed Bomb. Barry was down to Torterra, and wasted a turn using Roar to drag out Blinks. Of course I went for the Super Fang strategy, bringing Torterra's health down to about 25% of its max, and then it was time for Hex to finally shine. This tiny bee finished off Barry's starter with a single Bug Buzz. And now that I've properly healed, it was time to fight the Elite Four. First up was Aaron, who also likes bug types. He poisons my introvert, then sets up a light screen to bulk up his team. I try to be funny and set up nasty plot, but took way too much damage from a bug buzz and went down to poison. Lynx was next to be poisoned while barely doing any damage. Thankfully, the light screen finally expired and I was able to hit hard enough to finish off the Dustox. Aaron's Heracross entered the field with an Earthquake and then left the field after a Chatter. Ew, he evolved his Combee? I think my reaction confused him. Vespiquen tried to buff up his defenses, but Cherub kept dealing some solid damage, forcing Aaron to use his first full restore. But thankfully, Cherub managed to land a critical hit and knocked off Hex's waifu. That meant Aaron was down to his last, definitely bug-type Pokemon, Drapeon. I managed to confuse it with Chatter, but got knocked out with a cross poison. Garchomp came in with a Bulldoze, forcing Aaron to use his second full heal. There wasn't much more that Garchomp could do, and I was down to Venus or Hex. I decided to go for Venus since Hex is still baby, but Venus got one-tapped by a cross poison, so I guess Hex it is. I attacked with a Struggle Bug, dodged Drapeon's attack, and finished off the fight. Hex coming in clutched 2 major battles in a row. Bug types are pretty great indeed, Aaron. Now on to the next fight I go. In the interest of time, I'm not gonna talk about the Bertha fight because Venus basically swept her whole team. Oh hey, it's Volkner's friend. Flint starts out the battle with a fiery Rapidash against my Psychic Garchomp, who happens to know Bulldoze. That was enough to scare Flint and make him switch out to Steelix, who doesn't care about my ground type moves. Seeing that Flint isn't using many fire types on his team makes me wonder if he's the one who got poor Volkner to use non-electric types in his gym. Now the real battle begins, as Flint uses his Drifloon to set up Minimize, but then he baton passed all the evasiveness boost onto an Infernape. Cherub somehow managed to land a hit but got knocked out in the process. I sent out Hex next, but that didn't matter since Infernape just punched itself in confusion and knocked itself out. That just left the Drifloon. Flint set Hex on fire and laughed at the baby damage we were doing with our tiny little gust. He maxed out his evasiveness so I could do even less damage now, then started healing his balloon with Strength Zap. Hey Game Freak, where's Looker? I'd like to report a criminal over here. After a while I got frustrated at this stalling, so I just swapped out the Spiritomb, who happened to know Shockwave. I had heard about the annoying Minimize strategy ahead of time, so I thought I'd come prepared. Now arrest them, officers! Lucian was the final Elite Four member in my way. Having defeated the Elite Four, it was time to fight the greatest champion in Pokemon history. The battle starts out with Garchomp versus Spiritomb. I tried to be funny and attack with a super effective Dazzling Gleam, but barely did any damage. Cynthia, on the other hand, easily one-shot me with a Shadow Ball. Blinks tried to paralyze her ghost and copy Flint's strategy of maxing out its evasiveness. However, that too proved futile. I guess that's why Flint ain't champion. Introvert was out next, and I used Nasty Plot to boost my special attack. Once again, my strategy failed. Even with the plot boost, our attack just didn't do enough damage. Things weren't looking too hot for me. Half my team was already down. Thankfully, Cherub was able to finish off the Bulky Ghost, but it had yet another bulky Pokemon to fight, Milotic. The confusion from Chatter didn't face Cynthia's Pokemon, and she Ice Beamed my Melodic Bird away. Venus somehow tanked one Ice Beam, but barely did any damage with a super effective Power Whip. That left me with just little old Combee. My hopes of winning this fight were super low at this point, so I button mashed and prepared for the haha you lose. However, during all of our adventures and battles together, Hex had come to love me. After all, I had accepted this tiny bee, who would never evolve into a powerful Pokemon. I refused to replace it with a much stronger option like Scyther, Heracross, or even the legendary Dialga. And now, when push came to shove, Hex was gonna show me just how much that meant to him. Combee survived with 1 HP, just so that I wouldn't feel sad, and also hit Milotic with a Struggle Bug. Not only that, but its effect that lowers the foe's special attack also got triggered. This one super lucky turn gave me hope. Hope that someone on my team might survive one hit from Milotic's attacks now. It also gave me the conviction to toss out my only one healing item per battle roll. After all, this wasn't my typical run of a Pokemon game where I'm trying to see if X character has what it takes to win. This was my run of the game, and unlike all the NPCs I typically mimic, I have access to a ton of useful items. Look at all these revives I had bought to heal between Elite Four fights. Why would I let my team down and refuse to use them? For the challenge maybe, but this tiny bee reminded me that he wanted victory, here and now. And so he presented me with the opportunity to win. How could I possibly say no? So I opened up my bag and revived the one Pokemon I thought could take down this Milotic, Blinks. Hope was not gone, but sadly Hex was. Blinks returned to the battlefield, full of energy and ready to show Cynthia what a true champion's Pokemon can do. So we tried Flint's max evasion strategy once again, and this time it worked. Since Cynthia couldn't touch us anymore, I used this opportunity to to fully restore the rest of my team. It was time for phase 2 of this battle, and it was all thanks to Hex's love. Blink switched to the offensive, using Super Fang to lower my Lodoc's HP and finished it off with a Grass Knot. Up next was Gastrodon, who has a 4 times weakness to grass type moves, but since it only weighs like 30 kilos, our attacks barely did any damage. Good thing Super Fang doesn't care how chonky the enemy is. Cynthia used up one of her full heals to save her Gastrodon and managed to land an Earthquake, knocking out Blinks once more. Venus came back in to finish off this Sea Slug with a Seed Bomb. Cynthia responded with a grass type of her own, and predicting that she'd use a poison type move, I swapped out to Hex in order to save Venus for her other Pokemon. Cherub is back again, confusing her Roserade with a powerful Chatter. Sadly, confusion rarely works in my favor. Garchomp managed to bulk out one Sludge Bomb, finished off Roserade with a Psychic, but it had taken too much damage and died due to poison. Not sure what to expect next, I send out Spiritomb. Cynthia sets up a nasty plot on her Lucario, meaning that every attack she uses next would definitely one-shot all of my Pokemon, and of course, Introvert Shadow Ball barely does any damage. Thankfully, I had saved Venus at full health, but I didn't think he would be tanky enough to survive an attack from Lucario. I was ready to throw in the towel once more, but I figured since I already went down the revive route, might as well keep going and hope for the best. Venus was happy about my choice, surviving with 1 HP due to love. My plan was to keep reviving and swapping teammates, hoping that some miracle might happen. One sorta did, when Hex once again overflowed with love, using a turn to dodge and another to survive with 1 HP and another to dodge and another to survive with 1 HP again! Tiny B over here taunting Cynthia. Eventually, Lucario ran out of PP for all 3 of its attacking moves and it started spamming Nasty Plot. Cynthia realized that there wasn't anything else her Lucario could do, so she swapped out to her ace Pokemon, Garchomp. This was bad news for me since I was down to 1 last revive. Cherub lived thanks to love and landed a powerful Chatter. Knowing there wasn't much else I could do, I used my last revive on Introvert and watched my musical parrot get knocked out. My hopes were for Garchomp to hit itself in confusion and allow Garchomp to finish it off with a Dazzling Gleam. However, the dragon snapped out of confusion and finished off the suspiciously named Giraffe. It was all down to Introvert now. Since I was out of revives, I figured I might as well use the healing items, so I gave Spiritomb some Moo Moo Milk and found out that this thing can take an Earthquake from Garchomp. And since Introvert had the pressure ability, that meant that Cynthia's Pokemon could only attack us with its powerful stab moves 12 times. In theory, I could keep healing, and as long as Cynthia doesn't get a critical hit, I will be able to stall out her Garchomp. At base 1, the crit hit rate is 4%, or once every 25 moves. That meant that there was about a 50-50 chance for Cynthia to get the critical and prevent me from ever winning against her with such a silly team. I didn't know if this was because I had just lost my previous 50-50 or my luck in this game was just super good, but Cynthia did not get that critical. Once she ran out of Dragon Claws and Earthquakes, I could finally attack instead of just heal. Her poison jabs did a little bit of damage, but not nearly enough to stop me from knocking out her ace. All that was left was Cynthia's Lucario, and since it was out of attacking moves, all Lucario could do was spam Nasty Plot and watch as its health went down. Introvert fired off 1 last Shadow Ball and knocked out her final Pokemon. I may have cheesed this fight so hard that any lactose intolerant viewers are no longer with us, but with a ton of luck and love, I was able to win against Pokemon's greatest champion ever. Clap, clap, clap. It was a long and hard journey and a 40-minute long fight with Cynthia, but I did it, and I did it with the Pokemon I liked. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below telling me who was your favorite Pokemon from this run, and also if you'd like to see me do a similar run in Sword and Shield. Thanks for watching, happy holidays, and I'll see you in the next one.